My daughter chained me by the neck in front of his wife and shouted, "You're worse than a dog." Those were the words that cut through my heart like a knife. I felt the cold iron pressing into my skin as the chain rattled with every small movement I made. I tried to look into her eyes to find mercy, but there was none. Her wife stood by the doorway silent, watching the scene with wide, troubled eyes. My daughter's voice was loud, filled with anger, and it echoed through the walls of that house. What she didn't know was that the neighbor, Mr. Johnson, had been standing by his window the entire time. He saw everything. He heard everything. He knew the truth of what was happening to me. And in that very moment, as the chain bit into my skin, my heart whispered one thing. This is not the end. Someone will speak for me. But before I tell you how things got this far, let me introduce myself. My name is Margaret. I am 73 years old, and I am speaking to you from Georgia, here in the United States of America. I want you to subscribe, like this story, and click the notification button because more chapters are coming. And before I continue, let me ask you, tell me, from which part of the country are you watching from? Write it in the comments because I want to know where my family of listeners is hearing me from. Now let us go back to the beginning, because no storm begins without a small wind. I wasn't always a woman in chains. I was once strong, happy, and full of life. I raised my children with my 2 hands after my husband passed away early in our marriage. Life wasn't easy, but I worked hard. I cleaned houses, I washed clothes for rich families, and I cooked food to sell in the community. Every coin I earned, I saved for my children. I had 2 sons and 1 daughter. I loved them equally, though my heart sometimes worried that my daughter, the youngest, grew up spoiled by my love. She was clever, beautiful, and had the kind of charm that made people believe her every word. She knew how to smile sweetly when others were watching, but when it was just the 2 of us, she could be cold. At first, I thought it was the stubbornness of youth, but as the years went by, her heart only grew harder. One day, after I turned 70, I fell sick. My body was not as strong as before. I needed someone to help me, and that someone became my daughter. She told me, "Mama, don't worry, I will take care of you. Come and stay in my house." Her words sounded like a blessing, but I did not know that it was the beginning of a nightmare. At first, things were calm. Her wife welcomed me politely, though I often felt like I was not wanted. They gave me a small room at the back of the house. I told myself I should be grateful. But slowly, the way my daughter spoke to me changed. She began to shout over small things. If I dropped a cup, she would call me careless. If I coughed in the night, she would complain that I disturbed her sleep. Sometimes, when her wife wasn't home, she would lock me inside my room. I thought it was just stress, but deep down, my heart told me something worse was coming. Then came the day of shame. It was a Sunday afternoon. The sun was bright, the air heavy, and I had just finished sweeping the yard. My daughter came out with anger on her face. She accused me of something I had not done. She said I was trying to turn her wife against her. I opened my mouth to defend myself, but before I could speak, she grabbed an iron chain from the garage. "Since you like behaving like a stray," she shouted, "then I will treat you like one." Before I could move, she wrapped the chain around my neck and yanked it tight. I gasped, the metal pressing against my throat. Her wife ran forward, trying to stop her, but my daughter pushed her aside. "You're worse than a dog." She screamed into my face, her spit flying as tears filled my eyes. At that very moment, the sound of a window opening caught my ear. I turned slightly and saw it, Mr. Johnson, the neighbor, staring in shock at what was happening. His mouth opened as if he wanted to shout, but he stayed quiet, hidden in the shadows. And just then, something even more terrifying happened. The chain slipped tighter against my neck, and I felt as though I could not breathe. My daughter pulled it so hard that I lost my balance and fell on my knees. The ground was rough beneath me, but the pain in my throat was worse. My hands went up to the chain trying to loosen it, but she only pulled harder. Her wife shouted, "Stop it, you'll kill her." But my daughter's face was twisted with rage. In that moment, she looked nothing like the little girl I had once rocked to sleep. She looked like a stranger, someone who carried fire in her eyes. I gasped, "Why? Why are you doing this?" But she only spat back, Because you deserve it. You brought me nothing but shame. You think you can come here and rule my home? Not while I breathe. Her words stabbed me deeper than the chain ever could. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Mr. Johnson again. He had moved closer to his fence now, his eyes wide with shock. He looked torn. Should he come in? Should he call the police? I prayed in my heart that he would not just walk away, that someone would stand up for me when I no longer had the strength to stand up for myself. Then suddenly my daughter let go. I fell forward, coughing and clutching my neck. The chain clattered to the ground. My daughter's wife knelt beside me, trying to help, but my daughter shouted, "Don't touch her. Let her crawl like the animal she is." Her wife looked at her in horror. I could see it in her eyes, fear. She was afraid of her own partner. For a moment, silence filled the yard. Only my heavy breathing and the sound of a passing car on the street broke it. I lifted my head slowly and locked eyes with Mr. Johnson. He quickly pulled back from the fence, as if afraid my daughter might see him. But I knew what I saw. He had witnessed it all. Now, let me tell you how my life prepared me for such a day. Because what happened in that yard was not an accident. Life has a way of warning us, if only we pay attention. Long before this, when my children were still young, people used to say, "Be careful, Margaret. You spoil that girl too much. She will one day turn against you." I never listened. How could I? She was my baby, the last gift from God after my husband died. I wanted her to lack nothing. I gave her extra food, extra clothes, even when her brothers complained. I would tell them, "Let her be. She is the youngest." But love without discipline can become poison. And my love, blind as it was, grew into a whip that now lashed against my own back. Still, I never thought it would come to this. A daughter chaining her own mother like a dog. It was a nightmare I could not have imagined. That night, after the chain incident, I lay awake in my little room at the back of the house. My neck throbbed with pain, and my heart with sorrow. I thought about leaving, but where could I go? I had no money, no strength to work anymore. My 2 sons lived far away, and we had not spoken for years. I was trapped, both by weakness and by blood. But the next morning, as I stepped outside to get some air, something unexpected happened. Mr. Johnson was standing by the fence, waiting. He looked me in the eyes, his voice low but firm as he whispered, "I saw everything yesterday, and I cannot keep quiet about it." Mr. Johnson's words struck me like a bell in the silence of the morning. I saw everything yesterday, and I cannot keep quiet about it. I froze, my broom halfway to the ground. His voice was firm, yet low, as if he feared my daughter might overhear. My heart pounded in my chest. For a moment, I felt both relief and dread. Relief, because finally, someone had seen the truth of what I endured. Dread, because I knew how dangerous my daughter's anger could be if she discovered he had spoken to me. I swallowed hard and whispered back, "Please, Mr. Johnson, you don't understand. If she finds out you're helping me, she will come after you too." He shook his head, his eyes burning with determination. "No, Margaret. This has gone too far. A daughter should never chain her mother like a dog. If I keep silent, tomorrow she may do worse." Tears stung my eyes, but before I could reply, the sound of the back door slamming open made me jump. My daughter's wife stepped into the yard. She looked pale as though she hadn't slept. She carried a small basket of laundry, but her eyes flicked nervously between me and the fence. Mr. Johnson quickly straightened, pretending to water his flowers. I bent down to pick up the broom, trying to act normal. My daughter's wife gave me a small sad smile, one that said she wanted to help, but fear had tied her tongue. She walked to the clothesline and began hanging shirts with trembling hands. As soon as she went back inside, Mr. Johnson leaned closer to the fence. His voice was almost a whisper. "Listen, Margaret. I will call the police if this happens again. You hear me? You are not alone." My lips parted but no sound came out. My chest felt tight. I wanted to say thank you, but all I could do was nod. That day passed slowly. My daughter barely spoke to me. She stayed inside most of the time, and when she came out, she acted as if nothing had happened. She even smiled at me once, the way a snake might before striking again. That smile chilled me more than her anger. I spent the afternoon remembering the past, The days when my daughter was small and sweet. I remembered the first time she called me Mama, and how I wept for joy. I remembered her birthday parties when she would sit on my lap, giggling as she blew out the candles. Where had that child gone? When did my love turn into her weapon? As evening came, I sat outside on the old wooden chair. The sky turned orange and purple, and for a moment, peace touched my heart. But peace in my daughter's house never lasted long. Around 7 o'clock, she stormed out the door, her phone in her hand. She was shouting at someone on the other end of the line. "Don't lie to me. I know what you've been doing." Her wife followed her, trying to calm her down, but my daughter pushed her away. "You think I'm stupid?" she yelled into the phone. "I will show you who I am. Nobody betrays me and walks away." Her voice was so loud that even the neighbors peeked through their windows. I sat frozen, watching her rage spill into the night. Finally, she threw the phone on the ground and stomped back into the house, slamming the door so hard that the glass rattled. Her wife bent down, picked up the broken phone and looked at me. Her eyes were filled with silent apology. She wanted to speak, but fear kept her lips sealed. That night I could not sleep. I heard shouting from their room. Angry words, furniture being kicked, doors slamming. My body trembled under the thin blanket, praying the anger would not spill into my little room. By morning, my daughter was calm again. Too calm. She made breakfast, hummed as she cooked, and even brought me a plate. My hand shook as I took it, unsure if it was kindness or a trap. "Eat, Mama," she said sweetly. "You need your strength." But strength for what? That was the question haunting me. Later that day, Mr. Johnson returned to the fence. This time he didn't whisper. He called out as though he were talking about the weather. "Good morning, Margaret. How are you today?" My daughter was nearby, watering the plants. She glanced at him and smiled politely, then walked back inside. Only when she was gone did Mr. Johnson lean close and say, "I meant what I said. You must not keep quiet. If you don't speak, she will destroy you." I shook my head. "I cannot, Mr. Johnson. She is my child." He frowned. "Children are not, wrong is wrong. One day she will go too far, and you may not live to see another sunrise." His words echoed in my heart all afternoon. Was he right? Could my daughter truly go so far as to kill me? My mind did not want to believe it, but my body remembered the chain around my neck, the fire in her eyes, and the cruel words she spat. That evening the storm returned. I was in the kitchen washing a few dishes when I accidentally broke a glass. The sharp crack echoed through the house. Before I could even bend down to pick up the pieces, my daughter appeared, her eyes blazing. "What did you do?" she demanded. I'm sorry, I stammered. It slipped." Her face twisted with fury. She grabbed my arm so hard that I cried out. "Do you know how much this glass cost? You useless old woman." She shoved me back against the wall, her grip like iron. Her wife rushed in begging, "Please stop. It was just a glass." But my daughter was beyond reason. She reached for the drawer and pulled out something that made my blood run cold. It was a knife. She held it high, her chest heaving, her eyes wild. "Maybe I should finish this now, before you break my whole house." My heart nearly stopped. The knife gleamed under the kitchen light, and I thought, this is the end. This is how my story ends. And then, the knife gleamed in her hand, and my heart froze. "Maybe I should finish this now," my daughter hissed, her face twisted in anger. The blade shook slightly as she gripped it, not from fear, but from the force of her rage. Her wife screamed, "No, please don't do this." She grabbed her arm, struggling to pull the knife away. For a moment the two of them wrestled, the knife flashing dangerously close to my chest. I stood against the wall, my legs too weak to run, my voice trapped in my throat. Finally, her wife managed to push her back. The knife clattered onto the floor, and I gasped with relief. But my daughter turned on her wife with fire in her eyes. "You dare to stop me?" she shouted. She shoved her so hard that she fell against the table, knocking plates to the ground. The crash echoed through the kitchen. I rushed forward, trying to help her wife up. "Please," I begged, my voice trembling. "Stop this madness. I am your mother." But those words only made her angrier. She spun around and pointed her finger at me, her voice sharp like a whip. "You are no mother to me. You are a curse." Since you came into this house, everything has gone wrong. My business is falling, my wife disrespects me, and you're sucking the life out of me like a parasite. The words pierced me deeper than any knife could. I staggered back, my hand clutching my chest. My eyes filled with tears. How could the child I once carried in my womb, the child I nursed and protected, look at me with such hatred? Her wife stood now, trembling but brave. She stepped between us and said firmly, "Enough. You can't keep treating your mother this way. One day, someone will make you pay for it." The room fell silent. My daughter stared at her wife as though she had just declared war. For a moment, I feared she might pick up the knife again. But instead she let out a bitter laugh. "You think anyone will believe her?" she sneered, pointing at me. "Look at her, old, weak, barely able to speak without trembling. Who would believe anything she says?" I lowered my head. She was right about one thing. My voice was weak. My body was weak. But then my thoughts turned to Mr. Johnson. He had seen. He had heard. He was my only proof, my only chance at survival. That night, I locked myself in my little room. My daughter banged on the door once, shouting insults, but then she left me alone. I sat on the bed, shaking, praying for strength. But God must have heard me, because the next morning, something happened that would change everything. I stepped outside to fetch some air, my eyes still swollen from crying. Mr. Johnson was waiting by the fence again. His face looked grim. He leaned close and whispered, "Margaret, I heard the screaming last night. This cannot go on. I've already spoken to someone. And soon she will face the consequences." My knees almost gave way. "What do you mean?" I asked. He looked me dead in the eyes and said, "I reported it." My heart skipped a beat. Reported? To who? And before I could ask again, a sound came from the street that froze all of us. The sharp wail of a police siren pulling up right in front of the house. The sound of the police siren outside struck my heart like thunder. I froze on the spot, my hands trembling as I clutched the edge of the chair. Mr. Johnson's face was steady, but I could see the tension in his jaw. He had reported it. He had actually gone to the authorities. The siren stopped, and I heard the heavy crunch of boots on gravel. A sharp knock rattled the front door. Bang! 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 "Police department. Open the door." Inside the house, I heard hurried footsteps. My daughter's voice, high and nervous, called out, "One moment, officer." She opened the door with a smile that could have fooled the angels in heaven. "Good morning, officers," she said sweetly. "How can I help you?" Her wife stood behind her, pale as a sheet. She clasped her hands together, glancing from the officers to me in the yard. The two policemen stepped inside. One was tall and serious, his eyes scanning every corner. The other was shorter, carrying a notepad. "We received a report of possible domestic abuse in this residence," the tall one said firmly. My daughter laughed, a laugh so smooth it sent chills down my back. "Abuse? Oh no, officer, you must be mistaken. This is just my mother staying with me. She's old, you know. Sometimes neighbors hear her coughing or crying when she's sick. They probably misunderstood." Her voice was honey, but her eyes flicked toward me, sharp as knives. I knew what that look meant. Say a word, and you will regret it. The shorter officer turned to me. "Ma'am, are you all right? Has anyone hurt you?" My throat tightened. My lips parted. But the words died before they reached the air. My daughter stood inches away, her smile hiding the storm that brewed inside her. If I spoke, I feared she would make me pay the price once the police left. I stammered. "I am fine." The officer frowned. "Are you sure?" "Yes," I whispered, lowering my head. "I'm fine." I felt Mr. Johnson's eyes burning into me from the fence, but I couldn't look at him. I had betrayed his effort with my silence. The tall officer scanned the room, his gaze landing on the broken glass still in the trash and the scratches on my arm from the night before. He asked, "How did you get those marks, ma'am?" Before I could answer, my daughter stepped in. "Oh, those? She's clumsy. Always dropping things, always bumping into walls. I keep telling her to be careful, but you know how old people are." The policemen exchanged glances. I saw doubt in their eyes, but without my voice, they had no proof. After a few more questions, They turned to leave. We'll keep an eye on this house, the tall officer said. If we receive another report, we will have to investigate further. As soon as the door closed behind them, the silence in the house was deafening. My daughter's smile vanished. She spun around, her face dark as thunderclouds. Who reported me? She hissed. Her eyes darted toward the window. Then slowly, they turned to me. I shook my head quickly. I don't know. But her wife's face betrayed her. She had glanced at the fence, at Mr. Johnson. And my daughter caught it. Like a predator catching the scent of prey. She stormed toward the back door and flung it open. Mr. Johnson was still standing by the fence, his arms folded, his face calm. So it was you, my daughter growled. He didn't flinch. Yes, it was me. And I'll do it again if I must. Margaret doesn't deserve this. Her lips curled. You old fool. Stay out of my family business before you regret it. Mr. Johnson leaned closer, his voice steady as stone. If you harm her again, I will make sure the whole neighborhood knows. And next time, the police will not just leave with a warning. Her face flushed red. For a moment, I thought she might jump the fence and attack him. But then she forced a smile, that same fake sweetness she used on the police. Of course, neighbor. Thank you for your concern. She closed the door slowly, but the moment it clicked shut, she turned on me with eyes blazing. You see what you've done? She snarled. You've turned my neighbors against me. You've made me look like a monster. Tears filled my eyes. I didn't say a word. I whispered. Please, I beg you. I kept silent. But she wasn't listening. Her rage had found a new fire. She grabbed the broom from the corner and snapped it across her knee. If you ever make me look weak again, you won't live to regret it. Her wife gasped. Stop. Can't you hear yourself? But my daughter shoved her aside. You think she's your mother? She's mine. And I'll deal with her as I please. That night, the house was colder than ever. I lay awake in my room, shaking with fear. I thought of running away, but where could I go? My sons were far, and my body could not walk miles. I felt trapped like a bird in a cage. But then something unexpected happened. Near midnight, I heard a gentle knock on my window. My heart leapt in fear until I saw who it was, Mr. Johnson. He had crept to my window, his face lit only by the moonlight. Margaret, he whispered urgently. You cannot stay here. She will kill you. Tomorrow, I'll come with my truck. Be ready. We'll get you out of this house. My breath caught in my throat. But where will I go? To my sister's place, he said firmly. She'll shelter you until we can reach your sons. You must trust me. Tears rolled down my cheeks. Hope, fragile as glass, flickered in my chest. Thank you, I whispered. But before he could say more, the sound of footsteps echoed down the hallway. My daughter's voice called out angrily. Who are you talking to, Mama? The doorknob rattled violently. The doorknob rattled so hard, I thought it might snap off. Mama! My daughter's voice thundered from the hallway. Who are you talking to? Open this door. My heart pounded in my ears. Mr. Johnson crouched low by the window, motioning for me to stay quiet. His finger pressed to his lips. I nodded quickly, wiping the tears from my cheeks. I wasn't talking to anyone. I stammered, trying to steady my voice. I was just praying. The doorknob stopped rattling. Silence fell. Then her footsteps echoed away, slow and heavy, like a predator pretending to walk off before pouncing again. Mr. Johnson whispered through the window. Stay calm. She's suspicious. But tomorrow at dawn I'll be here. Pack only what you need, your Bible, clothes, medicine. Nothing more. I nodded again, my throat too tight for words. He gave me a final look, then melted back into the shadows of the night. I sat on the bed, trembling. My daughter's voice suddenly rang out from the living room. She was laughing. Not the laughter of joy, but a cruel, sharp sound that made my skin crawl. You can hide your whispers, Mama, she called out, her voice carrying through the walls. But I hear everything. Remember that. I didn't sleep a wink that night. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle of the wind outside made me jump. I clutched my Bible to my chest, whispering prayers over and over until dawn finally came. When the first light touched the window, I rose quickly. I folded a few clothes into a small bag and tucked my Bible on top. My hands shook, but hope pushed me forward. Then I heard it, the low rumble of an engine outside. Mr. Johnson's truck. My heart leapt. I rushed to the window, peeking out. He was there just as he promised. But before I could move, the sound of footsteps pounded down the hall. The door burst open and there she was, my daughter, her eyes wild, her face twisted in fury. "So it's true," she snarled, her eyes darting to the bag in my hand. "You were planning to run away." I froze, my bag clutched to my chest. Words failed me. She lunged forward, snatching the bag from my hands and tearing it open. Clothes spilled onto the floor, my Bible falling with a heavy thud. She stared at it, then at me, her lips curling into a cruel smile. "You think you can escape me?" she hissed. "Over my dead body." She raised her voice so loud the walls seemed to shake. "If you try to leave this house again, Mama, I swear I will bury you myself." And just then outside I heard Mr. Johnson shouting, his voice urgent, desperate. "Margaret, are you all right?" My daughter's head snapped toward the window, her face filled with rage. She grabbed the nearest thing, a heavy metal lamp, and stormed toward the door. The lamp in my daughter's hand gleamed as she stormed out the door, fury in every step. My heart nearly stopped. From the window, I saw Mr. Johnson standing by his truck, his face pale but firm. He shouted again, "Margaret, are you all right?" His voice carried over the yard like a cry of warning. My daughter burst into the open with the lamp raised high. "Stay out of my business, old man," she screamed, "or I'll crack your head open." Mr. Johnson didn't flinch. He stood tall, his eyes steady. "You won't silence me. The whole neighborhood is watching. You lay one hand on me, and you'll answer to the law." For a second I thought she might strike him. The muscles in her arm tensed, the lamp trembling as if begging to be thrown. My breath caught in my throat. But then, perhaps sensing the neighbors peeking through their curtains, she lowered it slowly. Her lips curled in a bitter smile. "You think the law will save you? Watch and see." She hurled the lamp to the ground with a crash, stormed back inside, and slammed the door so hard the walls rattled. I fell onto the bed, shaking my chest tight. Mr. Johnson's voice came through the window again, softer this time. "Margaret, she's dangerous. If she won't let you go willingly, we'll have to do it another way." I whispered back, "She'll kill me if I try." "No," he said firmly. "I won't let that happen. Tonight when she's asleep we'll move you. Be ready." Hope flickered in my heart, fragile as a candle flame. But the day that followed was long and cruel. My daughter treated me with icy silence. She didn't shout, didn't strike me. Instead, she ignored me completely, as if I were invisible. She cooked meals but left me none. When I tried to speak, she turned her back. It was a punishment worse than her anger. Her wife, quiet and fearful, slipped me a piece of bread when my daughter wasn't looking. "Be strong," she whispered. "It won't always be like this." Those words gave me a little courage, but they also made me ache. Why was she silent? Why didn't she speak up against this madness? Perhaps like me, she was trapped by fear. Evening came. The sky darkened and the house fell quiet. My daughter went to her room early, locking the door behind her. I heard her footsteps pacing for a while, then silence. I thought perhaps she had finally gone to sleep. I packed my bag again, this time more carefully. Only clothes, medicine, and my Bible. My hands shook as I tied the bag shut. Every sound in the house made me freeze. Midnight arrived. My heart pounded as I crept to the window. Mr. Johnson's truck was there, hidden under the shadows of the trees. His figure stood by the fence, waiting. I pushed the window open as quietly as I could. The night air rushed in, cool and sharp. I lifted my bag and passed it through. Mr. Johnson took it with steady hands. "Come," he whispered. Slowly. I swung one leg over the window frame, my knees weak, my body trembling. Just as I slid the other leg through, the sound that haunted me most shattered the silence. The creak of a door opening. Her door. My daughter's voice rang through the darkness, low and deadly. "And where do you think you're going, Mama?" My blood turned to ice. I froze halfway out the window, my body stuck between freedom and doom. She stood in the hallway, her face pale in the moonlight, her hair wild around her shoulders. She held something long and dark in her hand. First I thought it was a stick, But when she stepped closer, I saw it clearly. It was a leather belt. Her lips curled. So you want to run? After all I've done for you? Tonight, Mama, you will learn your lesson. Mr. Johnson's voice roared from outside. Leave her alone. But before he could climb the fence, my daughter lunged forward and yanked me back into the room. I screamed as I fell onto the floor, my knees hitting hard. She slammed the window shut with a crash, locking out the night, and locking me in with her fury. The belt whistled through the air as she raised it high. You think you're suffering now? She spat. I'll show you what suffering is. Her wife burst into the room then, her face white with terror. Stop. Please stop. You'll kill her. But my daughter's arm swung down, the belt slicing through the air toward my back. And just as it was about to land, the belt came down with a crack, slicing across my back. I screamed, the sound tearing from my throat before I could stop it. Pain shot through me, burning and sharp. My daughter's face twisted with rage as she raised the belt again. You will not embarrass me again, Mama, she shouted. You think you can run away? Never. You are mine. Her wife rushed forward, grabbing her arm. Stop it. Please stop. Get out of my way, my daughter roared, shoving her aside. The belt came down again, the sting searing my shoulder this time. Tears blinded my eyes, and my body trembled as I tried to crawl backward toward the corner. Outside, I heard Mr. Johnson pounding on the window. Open this door. Margaret, hold on. His voice was fierce, desperate, but I knew he couldn't reach me. My daughter turned toward the sound of his voice, her chest heaving. If he thinks he can save you, he's a fool. You belong here, and you will stay here. Her wife knelt beside me, shielding me with her body. Enough. Can't you see she's too old for this? You're hurting her. For a moment, my daughter froze. Her chest rose and fell, her hand still gripping the belt. Then slowly she dropped it. The belt fell to the floor with a dull thud. She stepped back, her face calmer now, but her eyes were darker than ever. Fine. Let her live, she muttered. But from today on, she will never leave this house. If she tries again, I'll make sure she never walks out alive. The words cut deeper than the belt. My wife-in-law's hand shook as she helped me to my feet. My back throbbed with pain, but worse was the ache in my heart. I thought about all the sacrifices I had made for this child. All the nights I worked my fingers raw so she could have food, clothes, and schooling. And now this same child had chained me, struck me, and spoken of my death without flinching. When she left the room, slamming the door behind her, silence fell like a heavy blanket. Her wife whispered, tears glistening in her eyes. I'm so sorry, Mama. I don't know how much longer I can stop her. I reached for her hand, my voice weak. You mustn't blame yourself. You are afraid just like me. But fear cannot last forever. One day we will have to stand. She nodded, her lips trembling, but said no more. That night as I lay in bed, my body sore and my spirit broken, I prayed harder than I had ever prayed before. Lord, I whispered, if this is my cross, give me the strength to carry it. But if this is not my end, send me a way of escape. The house grew quiet, but I could not sleep. Every creak, every shadow, every gust of wind made me flinch. Hours later, just as my eyelids began to close, I heard it again, 3 soft knocks at the window. I froze. My heart pounded. Slowly I turned my head. There in the moonlight was Mr. Johnson's face. He mouthed the words carefully, pressing his hand against the glass. Tomorrow night. But before I could nod, before hope could bloom again, another sound broke the silence. The creak of the hallway floorboards. Someone else was awake. And this time the footsteps were coming straight toward my room. The floorboards creaked again, each step heavier than the last. My heart thundered in my chest as I pulled the blanket over me, pretending to be asleep. Mr. Johnson's face vanished quickly from the window, swallowed by the night, leaving me alone to face whatever was coming. The doorknob turned slowly, squealing in the silence. The door opened just enough to let in a sliver of pale moonlight. My daughter stood there, her hair falling around her shoulders, her shadow long and menacing on the wall. I shut my eyes tight, my breathing shallow, praying she would believe I was asleep. For a moment, the only sound was the ticking of the clock on the wall and the pounding of my own heart. Then I heard her whisper, low and venomous, I know you're planning something, Mama. I can smell it. Her footsteps came closer. The boards groaned under her weight as she stopped beside my bed. I could feel her gaze burning into me, searching for any sign that I was awake. I forced my chest to rise and fall slowly, evenly, the way it does in deep sleep. After what felt like hours, she leaned down close to my ear. Her breath was hot on my skin as she whispered, "If you ever try to leave this house again, I won't use a belt. I'll use fire." My body stiffened, but I dared not move. She waited, as though hoping I would react. When I didn't, she finally straightened. Her footsteps retreated, and the door clicked shut behind her. Only then did I let the tears fall. Fire. She had threatened to burn me alive. My whole body shook as I clutched my Bible to my chest, whispering prayers until the trembling in my bones eased. The next morning, the house seemed strangely calm. My daughter acted as though nothing had happened. She made breakfast, hummed softly, and even greeted her wife with a smile. But beneath that calm, I saw the storm waiting. She was watching me, testing me, waiting for me to make a move. I ate quietly, forcing the food down though my stomach churned. When she wasn't looking, her wife leaned toward me and whispered, "Are you all right?" I nodded, but my eyes spoke the truth. No, I was not all right. I was living in a cage, waiting for the lioness to strike. Later in the day, Mr. Johnson stopped by the fence again. His voice was casual, loud enough to seem like neighborly chatter. "Good morning, Margaret. The weather looks fine today, doesn't it?" "Yes," I said softly, forcing a smile. My daughter was near, watering the plants, but her eyes darted to us suspiciously. Mr. Johnson added, his tone lighter than his words, "Some storms don't last forever. Sometimes freedom comes when you least expect it." I caught his meaning. My heart swelled with both fear and hope. Tonight. He had said tomorrow night, but after her threat, I knew he meant tonight. It had to be soon or it would be too late. The day dragged on, filled with tension. My daughter paced the house, restless. She barked orders at her wife, slammed doors, muttered to herself. I stayed in my room, pretending to nap, though my eyes never closed. By evening, the atmosphere was thick, heavy with unspoken threats. My daughter cooked dinner, but slammed my plate onto the table so hard it cracked. "Eat," she snapped. I obeyed silently. When night finally fell, I felt both dread and relief. Dread, because I knew the danger was highest at night. Relief, because I knew Mr. Johnson was out there, waiting. I packed my bag again, smaller this time, lighter. I tucked only what mattered, my Bible, medicine, and a picture of my husband. My fingers trembled as I tied it shut. Near midnight, I heard the familiar knock, 3 soft taps on the window. I rushed to it, pulling it open quietly. Mr. Johnson's face appeared, his expression urgent. "Call me, Margaret. We can't wait any longer." I swung my legs over the window. My knees ached, but determination carried me. He took my bag and steadied me as I climbed down. My feet touched the ground, and for the first time in years, I felt the sweet taste of freedom in the cool night air. "Quickly," he whispered. "My truck is around the corner." We hurried across the yard, keeping low. My heart pounded as we neared the fence. Freedom was only a few steps away. But just as Mr. Johnson helped me climb over, the night exploded with a furious scream. "Where do you think you're going?" The back door slammed open, and there she was, my daughter, her face twisted with rage, her hair wild, her eyes blazing. And in her hands, she carried a red jerrycan. My breath caught. The smell hit me first, gasoline. She raised it high and shouted, her voice cutting through the darkness. "If you leave me, Mama, I'll burn this whole place down. I'll burn you down." The neighbors' lights flicked on, windows sliding open as voices filled the street. Mr. Johnson stepped in front of me, shielding me with his body. "Don't you dare," he shouted. But my daughter's hand was already twisting the cap off the jerrycan. Gasoline splashed onto the ground, its sharp smell choking the air. And then, she pulled a lighter from her pocket. The flame from the lighter flickered in my daughter's hand, glowing against her furious face. The gasoline on the ground shimmered in the moonlight, the smell thick and poisonous in the air. My body froze. If that flame touched the ground, everything would be over. Mr. Johnson spread his arms wide, stepping between us. "Put it down," he barked. You'll kill us all. But she only laughed, a wild, broken laugh that made my blood run cold. Then let us all burn. Mama doesn't leave me. Not alive. Neighbors shouted from their windows now. Call the police, someone yelled. Another voice cried. Stop her. The whole street seemed to be awake, but no one dared come close. I trembled so hard my knees nearly gave way. My voice cracked as I pleaded. Please, child, don't do this. I am your mother. I gave you life. Don't take mine. For a split second, her eyes softened, but then the hardness returned. You gave me life, and now you want to abandon me? No, Mama. You suffer with me, or you suffer in fire. She tilted the jerrycan forward, letting more gasoline spill. The stench grew stronger. The lighter hovered above it, a tiny flame holding the power to destroy everything. Mr. Johnson lunged forward suddenly, trying to snatch the lighter from her hand. They struggled, the flame flickering dangerously close to the ground. My heart stopped. If it fell, if even a drop touched that fuel, this yard would be a furnace. Her wife rushed out then, screaming, Stop it! Please stop! She grabbed my daughter's arm, pulling with all her strength. In the chaos, the lighter flew from her hand, spinning through the air. Time seemed to freeze as it fell, and landed in the wet grass, the flame extinguishing instantly. Gasps rose from the neighbors. Relief washed through me like cool water, but it lasted only a moment, because my daughter's face twisted in rage deeper than I had ever seen. She screamed, a sound like an animal in pain, and turned on her wife. You betrayed me, she shrieked, shoving her so hard she stumbled backward onto the ground. No, I cried, rushing forward to protect her, but my legs betrayed me, weak and trembling. Mr. Johnson stepped in again, his voice thunderous. That's enough. The police are on their way. You're finished. The mention of the police seemed to snap something inside her. Her eyes went wide, wild, darting from me to Mr. Johnson to the glowing windows of the neighbors. She realized the whole street had seen her, seen everything. Her chest rose and fell rapidly. Then, without warning, she grabbed the jerrycan, lifted it with both hands, and hurled it directly at me. I didn't even have time to scream. The heavy can slammed against my chest, knocking the wind out of me. I fell hard to the ground, gasping, the world spinning around me. Gasoline splashed onto my dress, cold and burning my skin with its acrid sting. And then, she grabbed the lighter from the grass. Her thumb flicked, and a new flame leapt to life. She raised it high, her shadow stretching long across the yard, and screamed, If I can't keep you, Mama, then no one will. The flame moved closer to me, the smell of gasoline suffocating. The neighbors screamed, Mr. Johnson charged forward. And in that instant, the world seemed to hang on the edge of fire. The flame in my daughter's hand wavered, small yet deadly, its glow dancing across her furious face. My dress clung to me, soaked with gasoline, the sharp smell stinging my nose and throat. Every second felt like the final one, as though time itself held its breath. She stepped closer, her eyes wild. This ends tonight, Mama, she hissed. You thought you could leave me? You thought you could shame me in front of everyone? No. If you won't stay with me, I'll make sure no one else has you. The neighbors screamed from their windows. Some begged her to stop, others shouted that the police were on their way. But no one dared step into the yard. They watched in horror as the scene unfolded. Mr. Johnson lunged forward, his hands reaching for the lighter. But my daughter twisted away with a scream, swinging the jerrycan wildly. He stumbled back, nearly falling, but his voice boomed with authority. Drop it now. You'll kill her. You'll kill yourself. Her wife crawled to her knees, tears streaming down her face. Please, darling, listen to me. Don't do this. You'll regret it forever. But my daughter didn't even look at her. Her whole focus was on me. Her hand trembled slightly, the flame flickering dangerously. I could feel the heat already, and I knew one flick of her wrist and I would be gone. Terror gripped me, but something else rose inside too. Strength. A voice deep within me whispered, If you beg now, she will see only your weakness. If you stand, maybe, just maybe, you will remind her of the mother who once gave her life. I forced myself up onto my knees, even as gasoline dripped from my dress. My voice shook, but I spoke clearly. If you want to burn me, then burn me. But remember, the flames won't stop with me. They'll take you too. And when the ashes settle, the world will know who lit the fire." For the first time, hesitation flickered in her eyes. Her hand wavered, the lighter shaking. For a heartbeat, I thought she might drop it. But then, as if my words only enraged her further, she screamed, "Then let it all end." Her thumb pressed the lighter will hard. The flame grew. She lowered it toward me. Mr. Johnson moved faster than I thought possible. With a cry, he lunged and struck her wrist with all his strength. The lighter flew out of her hand, spinning across the yard. Gasoline splattered, and for one terrifying second, I thought the flame would catch. It landed in the dirt and went out. Chaos erupted. My daughter shrieked, a sound so piercing it froze everyone in place. She grabbed a rock from the ground and swung it at Mr. Johnson. He stumbled, blood trickling from his forehead. The neighbors screamed louder. Her wife leapt up and clung to her from behind, wrapping her arms tight around her waist. "Stop. Please stop," she sobbed. "This isn't you." But my daughter thrashed like a wild animal, kicking, clawing, dragging her wife with her as she fought to break free. "Let me go. Let me finish this." I scrambled to my feet, my whole body shaking. My chest burned where the jerrycan had struck me, and my dress clung cold and heavy with fuel. Every instinct screamed for me to run, but my legs felt like stone. Suddenly, the sound of sirens filled the night. Red and blue lights flashed down the street. The police were here. My daughter froze. Her eyes darted wildly like a trapped animal. She shoved her wife aside and looked around as though searching for escape. But the yard was surrounded. Neighbors at the fences, police cars skidding to a stop, officers leaping out with guns raised. "Drop everything," one officer shouted. "Hands where we can see them." My daughter's chest heaved. She looked at me, then at the officers. For a second I thought she might surrender. But instead she bolted. Running not toward the house, not toward freedom, but straight toward me. Her hands slammed into my shoulders, knocking me backward. "If I go down," she screamed, "I'm taking you with me." We both fell to the ground. The gasoline on my dress splashed onto her too. She grabbed at my throat, squeezing tight. My vision blurred as I struggled beneath her weight, my voice choking out. Mr. Johnson, bloodied but strong, threw himself at her, pulling her away. Officers swarmed the yard, shouting commands, tackling her to the ground. She screamed and kicked, her fury shaking the night. It took 3 men to pin her arms and legs. I lay gasping on the grass, my chest heaving, my body weak. Her wife crawled to my side, her hands trembling as she touched my face. "Mama, are you alive? Please tell me you're alive." I nodded faintly, tears spilling down my cheeks. My voice cracked as I whispered, "Yes, I'm alive." The officers dragged my daughter to her feet, cuffing her hands behind her back. She struggled still, her eyes wild, her mouth foaming with rage. She looked at me one last time and spat the words that cut deeper than any whip. "You're worse than a dog. I'll never forgive you." My heart broke again. The neighbors gathered at the fences, some whispering, some shaking their heads, others wiping their eyes. Mr. Johnson stood nearby, holding a cloth to his bleeding forehead, his face pale but determined. As they shoved my daughter into the back of the police car, silence fell heavy across the street. The flashing lights painted the night in red and blue, the echo of her screams fading into the distance. I thought it was finally over, that maybe at last I could breathe again. But then, as I stood shakily on my feet, the officer leading the arrest turned to me with a grave look. "Ma'am," he said, his voice low but steady, "we need you to come with us too. We found something in the house. Something you should see." My stomach dropped. What did you find?" I asked, my voice trembling. The officer hesitated, then answered slowly. "A locked room. And what's inside? It changes everything." The officer's words sent a chill through me. A locked room? My daughter's house had always been strange, full of secrets, but I never imagined there could be more hidden behind those walls. My knees trembled as I followed the police toward the house. Inside, the smell of gasoline still lingered. Broken glass, the overturned lamp, and scattered belongings made the place look like a storm had torn through. Officers moved quickly, searching every corner, their flashlights cutting through the dark. One of them stopped by a narrow door at the end of the hallway. It was small, half hidden behind a heavy curtain, as if meant to be forgotten. The door was bolted shut with a thick padlock. "This one," the officer said, shining his light on it. "We had to force it open." My heart pounded. "What's inside?" He hesitated. "Better you see for yourself." I stepped closer, my breath shallow. The door creaked as he pushed it open wider. My eyes strained in the dim light, and at first I thought the room was empty. Then I saw them, rows of cages, small and rusted, stacked one on top of the other. Inside were animals. Dogs, cats, even a bird, their eyes wide and frightened. The smell of waste and decay hit me hard. My hands flew to my mouth as I gasped. "Oh dear Lord." The officer's face was grim. "We believe she's been keeping them locked up for months. Neighbors reported missing pets. We thought it was just theft, but this," he shook his head. "It's worse than we imagined." I staggered back, my mind spinning. My daughter, my flesh and blood, had not only chained me like an animal but had been caging living creatures too. The weight of it crushed me. What had she become? Her wife stepped into the room behind me, her eyes filling with tears. She whispered. I begged her to stop. She said she loved the animals, that she was saving them. But this isn't love. It's cruelty. The dogs whimpered, tails tucked between their legs. A cat hissed softly, its eyes glowing in the beam of the flashlight. The bird rattled its wings weakly against the bars. Tears streamed down my cheeks. I reached out, pressing my hand against one of the cages. I was the first she chained. I whispered, my voice breaking. And now them. The officer turned to me. Ma'am, this evidence will keep her behind bars for a long time. But we need to know, did you ever suspect this? Did you know what was behind this door? I shook my head violently. No. I swear I didn't. She never let me near it. She kept the key on her at all times. I thought it was just storage. His eyes softened. We believe you. But the investigation doesn't end here. There may be more. And until we know everything, you and her wife will need protection. Protection. The word struck me like thunder. Protection from my own daughter. I leaned against the wall, weak, my body trembling from exhaustion and pain. As they began removing the animals, neighbors crowded at the doorway, whispering in shock. Some looked at me with pity, others with disbelief. I felt the weight of their stares, the shame burning my skin. Just when I thought the night could hold no more horrors, another officer emerged from the shadows of the small room. His face was pale, his eyes grim. In his hand he held a box, old and dusty, the lid half broken. Ma'am, he said, his voice tight. We found this under the cages. It's addressed to you. My breath caught. To me. He handed it over. My name was scrawled across the top in handwriting I recognized instantly, my daughter's. The box felt heavier than it should have. My hand shook as I lifted the lid. And inside was something that made me stagger back with a cry. The box trembled in my hands, though not as much as I trembled holding it. The handwriting across the lid was unmistakable. My daughter's. Bold, jagged, angry strokes that looked more like scars than letters. It was my name she had written, as if branding the wood with blame. I hesitated. Every instinct in me wanted to drop the box and run, but the officers urged me on. Go ahead, ma'am. Better you see it than imagine worse. Slowly I lifted the lid. The smell of mildew wafted out, mixed with something darker, metallic. At first I saw only papers folded and yellowed with age. But as I dug deeper, my fingers brushed against cold metal. I pulled out a chain. A heavy iron chain. My breath caught. It was the same kind she had used on me weeks before, to bind me by the neck like a beast. Except this one had a name tag attached. My name crudely carved into a piece of tin. The room spun. My knees buckled and I clutched the wall for balance. There was more. Beneath the chain lay photographs. Dozens of them, some torn, others smudged. My face stared back at me from me in the kitchen, me in the garden, me asleep in bed. Photos taken without my knowing. My hands shook as I shuffled through them. She had been watching me, recording me, collecting me as if I were a prisoner long before she ever chained me. And then I found the notebooks. Thick, leather-bound, the pages filled with her handwriting. The first one I opened nearly broke me. Mama thinks she's better than me. She thinks because she gave me life she owns me. But I'll show her she's no queen. She will crawl. She will beg. And when she's broken, she'll finally see I was always the stronger one. The words blurred as tears filled my eyes. My daughter had written page after page of hatred, twisting memories into monsters. Things I never said, things I never did, painted as proof of cruelty. To her, I wasn't a mother, I was an enemy. Her wife leaned over my shoulder, whispering through her sobs. I tried to take those notebooks once. She nearly broke my arm. I didn't know what to do. I was afraid. I closed the book quickly, unable to bear more. But something still rested at the bottom of the box, wrapped in a piece of cloth. My fingers unwrapped it slowly, my stomach sinking. It was a knife. Long, sharp, its blade dull with old stains I didn't want to name. Tied around the handle was a scrap of paper. My hands trembled as I unfolded it. If Mama ever tries to leave me again, this will be the end of her. A scream tore from my throat, echoing through the small room. The officer stepped forward, taking the knife gently from my hands, but the damage was already done. My heart cracked in ways I didn't know it could. One officer muttered, "This isn't just abuse. This is premeditation. Obsession. She was planning this." I staggered out of the room, clutching my chest. The neighbors stared, their whispers like daggers in the air. Some pitied me. Others looked at me with something colder, suspicion, judgment. As if I had birthed the monster, so I must be one too. I sat on the porch, the night air thick around me. My mind swirled with questions I couldn't answer. How had love turned to this? How had the baby I nursed at my breast, the child I sang to sleep, become the woman who dreamed of chaining me, burning me, killing me? Mr. Johnson limped over, still holding a rag to his wounded forehead. He sat beside me, his voice soft. "Don't blame yourself, Margaret. Some storms don't come from the sky. They grow in the heart. You did your best as a mother." But his words didn't soothe me. I shook my head, tears streaming. I must have failed her somehow. Children don't turn into this out of nowhere. Maybe I was too hard. Maybe I didn't listen enough. Maybe. He gripped my hand firmly. "Stop. This isn't your fault. I've seen evil before. Sometimes it grows in people, no matter the love they've been given. You loved her. You sacrificed for her. That's not failure. That's proof you're a mother." I wanted to believe him, but the box and its horrors sat heavy in my mind. The officers loaded the animals into trucks, promising to find them care. They sealed the evidence, chains, photos, notebooks, knife into bags. One of them told me gently, "You'll need to come to the station tomorrow. There'll be statements, investigations, maybe even a trial. We'll need you strong for this." Strong. The word felt like a mountain pressing down on my frail shoulders. Her wife stood nearby, her face pale, her hands trembling. "I don't know what to do now," she whispered. "I don't know who I am without her. She was my whole life." I looked at her with pity and pain. "Then you must build a new life. One where fear doesn't cage you." She nodded slowly, though her eyes remained hollow. The flashing lights faded as the police drove off with my daughter, her screams echoing faintly in the distance. The street grew quiet again, neighbors retreating to their homes, murmuring into the night. At last, silence. I thought the worst was over, that maybe after all this pain I could begin to heal. But as I prepared to leave the house, something caught my eye. A piece of paper fluttered near the door, half hidden under the rug. I bent down, my bones aching, and pulled it free. It was a letter, addressed to me. But this one wasn't written in anger. The handwriting was softer, shaky, as if my daughter had written it in a different state of mind. The first line made my blood run cold. "Mama, if you're reading this, then I know you've found the box. But there's one more secret you don't know. One that will destroy you." The letter shook in my hands as I unfolded it. The ink was smudged in places, as if written through tears or trembling. My eyes scanned the first few lines, and already my chest tightened. "Mama, if you're reading this, it means you've seen the box. You think you know me now, but you don't. You don't know the truth of why I hate you." I swallowed hard, my throat dry. Hate me? I had felt her anger, her cruelty, but seeing the word in her own hand struck deeper than the belt, the chain, the jerrycan, all of it. The letter continued. "All my life you told me you were my mother. But the truth? You're not. You've lied to me since the day I could talk. I learned it years ago when I found the old papers hidden in your chest. You weren't the one who gave me life. You just took me in. My real mother is dead. And I think it was because of you. The paper slipped from my hands, fluttering to the floor. My heart stopped. The room tilted and I had to grip the wall to keep from falling. Not her mother?
No, iwisparat.
No, that's not true. But deep down, memories I had buried clawed their way back. The day I brought her home. The way neighbors had whispered about the child with no father, no mother. The papers I had burned, thinking she would never need to know. I had raised her as my own, loved her with every fiber of my being, but I had never told her the truth. Mr. Johnson picked up the letter and read silently, his face grave. Margaret, he said softly, is any of this true? Tears blurred my vision. I never wanted her to feel abandoned. She was only a baby. I thought if I gave her love it would be enough. I thought the truth would break her. Her wife gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. She knew? All this time? That explains. Oh Lord. She shook her head. She used to scream at night saying you lied to her. I didn't understand. I thought it was just anger. But this. I sank into the nearest chair, my whole body trembling. I wanted to protect her. I never imagined she would twist it into hate. The letter wasn't finished. You pretend to be a saint, but I know the truth. You took my life and turned it into your pity project. You chained me to your lies. That's why I chained you. That's why I'll never stop until you feel the fire I feel inside. My tears fell onto the paper, smudging the cruel words. My daughter's rage had not been born from nothing. It had been planted in the soil of secrets. My secrets. The officers exchanged glances, whispering among themselves. One finally said, "This doesn't excuse her crimes, but it explains her obsession. The court will want this letter." I couldn't think of courts or trials. All I could think of was my baby girl, the child I had sung to sleep, whose small hand had once clung to mine. She had grown into a woman full of hate, because I had hidden the truth. My silence had built a prison in her heart. Her wife knelt beside me, her voice shaking. "Mama, don't blame yourself. Some truths are too heavy, but you have to be ready now. If she knows this, then she's not done with you." The words chilled me. Not done with me. And then, as if the night itself wanted to confirm her fear, a sound shattered the tense silence. A car screeching to a stop outside. Doors slammed. Heavy footsteps pounded up the porch. And a familiar voice, hoarse and furious, screamed through the night. "Mama, I'm not finished with you yet." The sound of that voice froze the blood in my veins. "Mama, I'm not finished with you yet." It was her. My daughter. The police had driven her away earlier that night. They had handcuffed her, loaded her into the patrol car, and promised me she would not be able to hurt me again. And yet, here she was, standing on the porch of her own house, screaming for me like a wolf howling for blood. The officers rushed to the door, their hands on their weapons. One barked into his radio for backup. Another shouted, "Stay inside. Don't move." But it was too late. The door burst open with such force the hinges groaned, and there she stood, my daughter, my tormentor, my child. Her eyes were wild, her hair tangled, her clothes torn as though she had fought her way free. She looked less like the daughter I once raised and more like a storm wrapped in flesh. Her hands clutched something shiny. Another chain. She must have hidden it somewhere before they took her away. She pointed straight at me. "You lied to me, Mama. You stole my life. You thought you could hand me over to strangers, dress me up in your lies and call it love. But tonight the whole truth burns with you." Her wife let out a sob, hiding behind the sofa. Mr. Johnson, wounded but brave, limped forward, blocking her path. "You stop right there, girl. Don't take another step." But she shoved him aside with such fury he collapsed against the wall, groaning in pain. I stood, my knees trembling, but I refused to cower this time. My voice, though weak, carried through the chaos. "Listen to me, child. I didn't steal you. I saved you. I took you when no one else would. I gave you food, a home, love. I gave you everything I had. Yes, I kept the truth from you, but it was never to hurt you. It was to protect you from pain." Her face twisted, rage and tears battling in her eyes. Protect me? You robbed me. You chained me to your lies. That's why I chained you. Do you know what it feels like to live every day wondering why you were never good enough for your real mother to keep you? The words sliced through me like knives. My tears fell hot and fast, but I did not look away. I know that pain, I whispered, because I lost my child too. My blood. I buried my baby before you ever came to me. Do you think I didn't know what loss was? When I saw you abandoned, unwanted, I thought God had given me a second chance. I thought He put you in my arms so I could love you back to life. I never meant for my silence to turn into your chains. For a moment, her eyes flickered with something, doubt, maybe even sorrow. But then the fury returned. She raised the chain high, stepping toward me. Lies. All of it. Tonight you'll feel what I feel every day. Before the chain could strike, the officers lunged. The room erupted in shouts and chaos. She thrashed like a wild animal, swinging the chain at anyone who came close. One officer took a heavy blow to the shoulder and fell back, wincing. Another tried to pin her arms, but she bit and clawed until blood welled up. Her wife screamed, "Stop! Please stop! This isn't the way." But she didn't listen. I felt myself sinking, dizzy with fear, but something inside me sparked. No more hiding. No more silence. My daughter's hatred was a fire, and I had to face it head-on. I stepped forward, despite the danger, despite the officers yelling for me to stay back. I raised my voice, stronger than it had been in years. "Look at me, child." She froze. Her wild eyes snapped to mine. "Chain me, beat me, burn me if you must, but know this. I am not your enemy. I am your mother, whether by blood or by choice. And no chain in this world can break the love I had for you. You can kill me, but you will never kill the truth that I loved you when no one else would." The room fell silent for half a second. The officers paused. Her wife's sobs quieted. Even Mr. Johnson, clutching his side, stared wide-eyed. My daughter's hand shook. The chain wavered in the air. Tears welled in her furious eyes, spilling down her face. For a moment, I thought she would drop the weapon. But instead she screamed. A sound so raw it split the night. She swung the chain down with all her might, not at me, but at the floor, shattering the wooden boards beneath her feet. Then she collapsed, sobbing, her body shaking. "Why didn't you just tell me?" she cried. "Why didn't you trust me with the truth?" The officer seized the moment, pinning her arms and wresting the chain from her hands. She didn't fight this time. She just wept, broken, her body limp as they cuffed her again. I stood there, trembling, tears streaming down my face. "Because I was afraid," I whispered. "Afraid that the truth would make you hate me." And in the end, my silence did the very thing I feared. Her wife rushed to her side, begging the officers not to hurt her, begging her to stop fighting. Mr. Johnson leaned heavily on the wall, nodding weakly at me, his eyes filled with sorrow and sympathy. The officers dragged her toward the door, her sobs echoing through the night. She looked back once, her eyes locking with mine. For the first time, I didn't see rage in them. I saw pain, hurt, betrayal. And then she was gone. The silence that followed was heavier than any chain she had ever bound me with. I sank into the chair, my heart pounding, my soul weary. The night air carried the faint sounds of sirens as more patrol cars arrived. Neighbors peeked from their windows, whispering, gossiping, judging. But I didn't care anymore. Because in that moment I learned something. Secrets are chains. They may seem small at first, even harmless. We hide them to protect, to spare feelings, to keep peace. But the longer we carry them, the heavier they become. And one day, those chains can choke the very love we tried to save. If I had told her the truth when she was younger, if I had trusted her with her story, maybe she wouldn't have turned her pain into rage. Maybe she wouldn't have chained me or the animals or herself. Or maybe she would have. I'll never know. What I do know is this: silence breeds monsters. And love, no matter how strong, must be built on truth. That night, I lost my daughter to her fury, to her brokenness. But I also found my voice again. And though the scars on my neck will never fade, they remind me of the lesson I now share with you. Speak the truth. Share it even when it hurts. Because secrets can destroy, but truth, though painful, can set us free. And to you watching this story, My name is Margaret. I am 68 years old, speaking to you from Georgia, USA. If you've stayed with me to the end of my story, thank you. Please subscribe, like, and click the notifications button so you don't miss the next stories I'll share with you. And tell me, from which part of the country are you watching from? I want to know. This was my story. My pain. My lesson. And I pray you never find yourself chained by silence as I once was.